Hyung, are you sleeping? Jungkook's first moment of awakening from fainting the hospital lights never really went out, but the night was quieter than usual. In one of the intensive care rooms located some distance from the center of the ward, Jungkook's body lay quietly within 4 tubes, still attached to his wrist. The sound of the heart rate monitor fills the room, slow, constant, and thrilling. On that side of the bed sat Jimin, still in the same clothes from 5 days ago. His head rested on the back of the chair, his eyes puffy but open. He had no intention of sleeping. Since Jungkook collapsed during the recording session, Jimin's world seems to have stopped. There was no other schedule he cared about. There was no message from the company he opened. All he knew, only one thing mattered: Jungkook hadn't opened his eyes. And as long as it is, it won't go away. But that night, between the quiet murmur of the medical machine and the thin knock of the rain on the window, a quiet noise was heard from the side of the bed. Hyung, are you not sleeping? First of all, Jimin thought it was just a delusion. But when he lifted his head and turned to the bed, his gaze immediately froze. A pair of eyes, though still weak, had opened. Those eyes belonged to Jungkook. It's full of questions, full of confusion, and underneath it all, there's a sense of worry. Jimin didn't say anything. He just stood up quickly, almost dropped his chair, then grasped Jungkook's warm but weak hand. Her tears immediately fell, without having time to hold back. Jungkook, you are aware. You hear me? His voice trembled. He couldn't even smile because his lips were shaking. Jungkook tried to nod, although his movements were barely noticeable. Hyung, are you still here? He asked slowly. The question is simple, but the answer stemmed feelings that they had never really said. Yes, Jimin replied, his voice almost broken. From the first day you fainted. I'm not going anywhere. Jungkook's eyes looked teary. Maybe because of the effects of the drug, or maybe because he just really realized something. Behind all the schedules, rehearsals, non-stop hard work, there was one person who stayed. Not giving up. No turning back. Not complaining. Are you crying? Jungkook asked quietly, his lips trying to smile even though his body wasn't fully strong yet. Jimin did not answer. He just lowered his head, covered his face with his hands, and chuckled between tears. I'm crying, you idiot. You're freaking everyone out. I didn't think you'd wake up. For a moment, the atmosphere was quiet. Only the sound of the drip-drip and the monitor kept beeping. But in that silence, two hearts that had been walking together since adolescence spoke to each other in a language that needed no words. Because that moment wasn't about physical recovery alone, it was about how one life wouldn't be complete without the other. Hey, Jungkook whispered. If I stop singing, you stay with me, right? The question poked deep. Jimin closed his eyes, holding back a cry that almost exploded again. Then he answered quietly, I'm staying here. With or without a song. With or without stage. I'm here because of you. And in that second, the world seems to stop for a moment to make room for two people who take care of each other, not only because of the destiny of the group or work, but it's a love that's deeper than just friendship. A love that's born out of a sense of mutual rescue. A few hours later, doctors arrived, stating that Jungkook's condition was slowly stabilizing. But even after all that, Jimin stayed. This time, not with an anxious or tearful expression, but with his hands firmly grasping Jungkook. As dawn begins to creep in behind the curtain, Jungkook is already asleep again, and Jimin is still awake, no longer out of fear, but as he knew, he had accompanied until the end of the longest night of their lives, and as they always do, they will greet the morning, together. The morning sun crept slowly behind the curtains of the hospital room, spreading a soft golden light throughout the room. The air inside remained calm, as if time had not yet run out. On the white bed, Jungkook fell asleep again with more regular breathing, chest heaving in a soothing rhythm. On the side of the bed, Jimin was still sitting, but this time he looked different. His eyes were still puffy, but his face brought a new serenity, like someone who can finally breathe again after holding their breath for too long. He looked at Jungkook's face intently. Every detail, tapering eyelashes, a calm nose, to the jawline that he used to ridicule for being too sharp. And now all of that was lying in silence, with an innocent, childlike face. Jimin took a deep breath and whispered something that could only be heard by the walls and ceiling of the room. "I thought I was going to lose you." He didn't mean to say that out loud, but those words came out of his heart, flew into the air, and settled between them. Jimin turned his gaze for a moment out the window, staring at the sky that was starting to clear. Cars start to pass by, the world slowly turns back, but his own world just came back whole because that one person had already opened his eyes. Suddenly, Jimin's mobile phone vibrated in his pocket. Dozens of messages from HYB staff, BTS friends, and their families flooded the screen. Everyone asked about Jungkook's condition. But there was one message that made Jimin stop for a moment. A message from Hyung. "Hyung, I know you didn't have time to open the message, but please tell Jungkook, we're all waiting for him at home. Don't think it's his responsibility alone." Jimin smiled faintly. He knows very well how Jungkook often carries everything on his own. Pressure as Magne, as one of the main vocalists, and now as a global symbol of K-pop. He always tries to be strong for everyone. But this time, he doesn't need it. This time, the world allows Jungkook to become human. Not an idol, not a star, just John Jungkook. Several hours passed. When Jungkook opened his eyes for the second time that day, he looked even fresher. Although his body was still weak, his vision was clearer. He turned his head slowly, and when he saw that Jimin was still in the same place, a small smile appeared on his face. "Hyung." Jungkook's voice was hoarse. "Are you really not sleeping at all?" Jimin laughed a little. "I fell asleep a few minutes ago, but don't expect me to leave you alone." Jungkook looked up at the ceiling, then slowly said, "I had a nightmare. But when I woke up and saw you there, I was so relieved." Jimin grabbed a water bottle and helped her drink. After that, they were silent for quite a long time. Not because of the lack of words, but because the presence of each is enough, until finally Jungkook said quietly, "Hyung, I think I failed." Jimin immediately looked up. "What failure?" "Failed strongly. Failed to be reliable." "Me? Passed out. In the middle of work. In the middle of recording for our song." It was embarrassing. Jimin didn't answer for a moment. He looked at Jungkook intently, then grasped his hand and said, "It's a shame if you pretend to be okay. But you didn't. You're tired, and that's not weakness, Kook. It's human. And you, stay awesome." Jungkook was silent. The tears began to pool again, this time not because of pain, not because of fatigue, but because of a sense of acceptance. Because for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like he had to prove anything. It's enough to be himself. They talked for a long time that day. About unfinished songs. About how they want to release it. About the message they want to convey, not as an idol, but as two people who once felt empty and chose to survive because there was someone next to them. Before nightfall, Jimin took the headphones from his bag and then connected to the mobile phone. He played a demo of their last song Jungkook sang before passing out. Jungkook listened with his eyes closed. As the chorus came, he muttered, "My voice. Broke, yeah." Jimin smiled. Broken, but honest. That's what makes this song feel alive. Jungkook opened his eyes and looked at Jimin. "Can we sing it again later? From the beginning. Together." Jimin nodded. "Sure, but this time we sing for ourselves first. Just make the world." The night comes again, bringing tranquility after a day full of emotions and awakening. In a hospital room that was now warmer by the dim light and the presence of two souls who looked after each other, the atmosphere became a silent witness of a bond that could not be described in words. The bond between Jimin and Jungkook has been built since the first day they dreamed of being together as BTS. Jungkook has woken up. His body is slowly recovering, but most importantly, his heart is starting to heal. Not only from physical fatigue, but from the stress that he has kept himself under. And Jimin, with a sincerity that never wavered, has proved that true friendship is not about being in the spotlight, but rather about not leaving when everyone else is away. When it was almost dawn, they didn't talk much. Jungkook closed his eyes, and this time not because he was tired, but because he felt safe. Jimin sat on the side of the bed, clasping his hands, as if saying silently, "You can rest now. I'm here." Out there, the world is waiting for news. Media asks, fans speculate, but behind all that noise, only two people really knew the meaning of this moment.